Hello, friends. Welcome back to the show.
His strength is inhuman. Could be chemically induced. There's one good look at him coming up. Here, he's not in any of our files.
He's a stranger to me, too.
Look at those eyes. How does someone get a face like that?
Hello, friends. Welcome back to the show. So glad to see you once again. And if you're new here, I'm so glad you stopped by because this is the show for you, because I have a feeling that you enjoy cartoons and shows from the 90s that we grew up on. Well, this is the show where we talk about each and every episode. And right now, we are in a series talking about the new Batman Adventures. So if this sounds like something, if this sounds like something that you might be interested in, then just hop on below and hit the subscribe button. Maybe click the like button while you're at it, because we've got plenty of content coming your way every Tuesday and Thursday. Just like today's episode, where we're breaking down and talking all about Growing Pains, the episode, not the show, which originally aired on February 28th, 1998.
Clayface.
Well, this episode brings us the return of Clayface, one of my personal favorite villains. And as always, with this show, they've taken him to a new level, a new iteration of Clayface, and is really pretty cool of a story and a great mystery and a great way of introducing the character. And we're going to talk all about that right after our 60-second rundown of the episode. Here we go. Robin rescues a girl from a gang, and she runs away from him. And meanwhile, there's also this large guy who's running amok around the town. And Gordon and Batman are trying to figure out who that is. And Robin once again runs into this girl and tries to rescue her. And she's running away from him, but doesn't know who she is or what her name is. So he names her Annie. And slowly she starts to remember some sort of light and a lighthouse. And so they go to that and they find these pipes, and they go into the pipes, into the darkness, and they find this large man who claims to be her father and is trying to pursue her. And then he turns into Clayface, and then it all starts coming back to her that she now knows who she is, that she is part of Clayface because he has created her to go out into the world and figure out if it's still safe. But while she was out there, she figured out who she was and all this. And so now he is trying to bring her back into his body, and he does, but they stop him and capture him, and then Robin wants to charge them for murder.
In this line of work, one slip is too many.
This is a really cool episode. I love Clayface. I keep saying I love villains, but that's not correct. I really enjoy Clayface as a villain. He's really interesting. He has a great power to be able to shift his body and face and voice to mask anybody and become anybody, which is a great threat. And we talked about this when we first saw him in Holiday Nights, that he was able to split into 4 other people. But in this, he creates this little girl as an offspring, as another extension of him, who has her own personality and her own thoughts and her own feelings, but is in every way part of Clayface. And Robin takes a liking to her and wants to make her wants to free her and get her on her own, which is just such an interesting science fiction kind of dynamic, that she is part of Clayface. She is Clayface, and yet Robin is trying to save her from being absorbed back into Clayface's body. What an interesting idea.
Are you in trouble with the cops? I just want to help.
You can't. I have to keep moving.
Right at the beginning of this episode, we see this punk gang that is trying to harm this girl, which is what draws Robin's attention to her to go save her. And I don't know what it is about Batman or Gotham City, but in a number of iterations, there always seems to be this punk gang. From the original Batman movie to the Dark Knight Returns comic book to Batman Forever, there always seems to be this punk element in the episodes. So I don't know what it is about Gotham. Even the show Gotham has kind of these punk characters that show up in the city. I don't know why, but that always strikes me as a strange style for a gang.
Past your bedtime, ain't it, cutie?
This is the first episode that we really see the Tim Drake Robin out on his own. He starts out by himself and is kind of going off on his own thing, patrolling by himself, and then sees the bat signal that pulls his attention away. So for being a young Robin, he's out there doing his own thing.
Don't you want to play?
Maybe she doesn't like slime.
Halloween's over, kid. Now scram before you get hurt.
This is also the first time, I mentioned this earlier, but this is the first time that they really reference that Commissioner Gordon references Barbara Gordon as his daughter. They kind of, to me, it felt like in the show they kind of ignored that fact, and Barbara Gordon seems to be living or staying with Bruce Wayne a lot rather than at her own house. And they don't really explain that well, but this one, they at least reference that she's still with Commissioner Gordon's daughter.
Glad my Barbara's past her wild years.
This episode shows a much more stoic, silent Batman. We have several moments where Robin is trying to talk to him and trying to get information out of him or trying to converse with him, and he just gives a glare, a stare to Robin.
I'm going after her.
No, we're going home.
And we get to see the hot-headed Tim Drake that is running off on his own and doesn't want to do things the way that Batman does things. And Batman wants to be more thoughtful and investigate and do detective work. And Robin just wants to go out and rescue and save. And so we get to see that little bit of a dynamics that's created there.
Searching aimlessly won't help her. Be patient.
No!
What?
I'm not waiting around while you study dirt. If you're not gonna help me, I'll find her myself.
And which plays well in this episode because it is a mystery. We don't know at the beginning of this who the little girl is or who her father is or why she's running or why she doesn't remember these things. So it's a great mystery. Although once the reveal happens at the end, you can go back and watch it again and see those references that she makes throughout the episode that lead you to believe that she is part of Clayface or part of someone, or there's something very odd going on with her.
He's always there. He's even in my nightmares.
I do have to say, though, as much of a fan of Clayface as I am, it's a little disappointing in this episode that really you go through about 2/3 of the episode before you ever actually see Clayface, true Clayface. Now, I know she is Clayface and the large father figure man is Clayface, but to actually see Clayface, Ron Perlman as Clayface, takes about 2/3 of the episode. And really, other than her and this man, that's the only real shape-shifting that he does in this episode. And again, that's the element that I really enjoy about Clayface, is getting to see him change into all these different people and use the art of disguise to kind of do his bidding and his criminal works. I don't know what this means. This is just hands.
I've warned you once, kid. Stay out of this.
So the theme of this episode is that he creates this offspring from himself. And it does tie in really well with Mudslide. So when we last saw Clayface, he was thrown off the cliff and fell into the water and kind of dissipated and couldn't keep his form because of this testing that was being done, or actually because Batman shut off the testing. And so they do kind of in that real quick flashback show how he couldn't keep his form anymore, went through the water, but something in the chemicals caused him to change and be able to bring himself back together. But they don't really explain how he's now able to create this offspring that is really doing her own thing, almost has her own personality, her own thoughts. And other than there was something in the water, in the chemicals that he was exposed to make him do that. But it's a bit far-fetched to why this little girl doesn't know anything about him or who he is. But I'll go along with it. I mean, and like I said, we're getting into more of the science fiction elements of Batman as we get into the Justice League and Justice League United and all those kind of bigger world alien races kind of elements coming together as he meets Superman and these other heroes and villains that are being introduced into the series. So I can go along with it as we start stretching the fantasy world of Batman in Gotham City.
This is where you lost your memory. We could be walking right into serious trouble.
And there's a great moment at the end with not only the scene itself, but the camera work of this shot, where you hear the police officers talking about what Clayface is being charged for. And it rack focuses back on Batman and Robin framing the policemen that are saying that where Robin tells Batman, yeah, he should also be charged for murder. It's just a great scene, great composition, great line, and shows a great element to Robin really caring for this little girl, even though she was just an extension of Clayface.
Right? Anything else?
Yeah. Murder.
So when it comes time to rank this episode, it is great fun. It's a very unique story, very original, very enjoyable to watch in all those senses. And it does include Clayface, which is one of my favorite villains. However, like I said, he's not in it truly in a Clayface form all that much. So I was a little disappointed in that, but it's still a really interesting, solid episode. And we get to see a lot more about Tim Drake, who hasn't been in the last couple episodes, but we get to see a dynamic with him that we haven't explored before. So for all those reasons, it sort of falls in the halfway point of my list so far at the number 4 spot of my favorite episodes. It is behind Holiday Nights because what that episode has going for it is just a variety. If you don't have to like all the episodes to enjoy this, there's enough variety in that episode and a lot crammed into there that the stories can be a little simpler versus this one that just ends up being kind of a one-trick pony sort of episode. But it does beat out Never Fear because personally, I just like Clayface as a villain much more than Scarecrow.
Sometimes there are no happy endings.
So let me know, is this episode a little too far-fetched for you, or do you kind of buy into some of the sci-fi fantasy elements that are introduced throughout the episode? Let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this episode, please click the like button. If you want to see more episodes like this, just hit subscribe because I come out with new episodes every Tuesday and Thursday, and this Thursday I'll be reviewing the episode Mean Seasons, so you don't want to miss that. As always, thank you so much for watching. I'm Andy Knode. I'll see you soon.